world full of information, can we still distinguish the truth? Information, information, information everywhere. How will you know if everything you hear is just an opinion or a fact?
I will be able to know if something is true when it is supported by facts. On the other hand, I can tell if it's just an opinion when it has no basis and it only came from your own beliefs and perspectives.
Well, it depends. If I think it's subjective, then I'll take it into consideration. But I don't think it will help affect my opinion either. But if it's very objective or factual, then of course I have to accept the fact that it's
very, very hard to answer because even in the newspapers, not everything that you read about in the newspaper is based on fact. There's even claim that some are spreading false news. So how can you believe? Okay. So maybe unless you have first-hand information or you can really rely on the source of the information, maybe you should always consider it as hearsay, that it's just an opinion. So for me, it's very, very hard to determine if it's a facts. The fact that this is made of wood, I know this is a fact because I can touch if it is really made of wood. But one time we bought a dining set. It was very, very nice and shiny. And then after a few months, it was already beginning to move. It was not stable anymore. When we looked under it, it seemed that it was only made of cardboard. It was only like it's made of cardboard. So, what is fact? It's so very hard to know.
It's really based on the information given by the specific or particular person. If he or she lies, it will definitely shows naman with his or her expressions. If he's telling the truth, then definitely you would able to know.
I think philosophy plays a vital role in my life since it helps me define and helps me understand what my life is supposed to be about or how
I know I should try to seek for the truth behind statements, behind what I hear before I should believe it. I should do my best to give the benefit of the doubt to people who are being victims of, let's say, rumors like that. For example, there is some controversial news that seems to say, oh, this person is guilty, that's why he was killed. Well, I try to look at the other side and try to search for the other side, the point from the other side, and try to weigh both sides.
Okay, actually, there's no absolute or philosophical thought I think now would materialize in me for as long as my philosophy kasi in life is actually yung mga Bible verses like Philippians 4:11, Colossians, yung whatever I do it not just because of that's what I want, but because that's actually the God's plan for me.
Be wise and vigilant enough. Learn to scrutinize. Start philosophizing.
Truth has always been the subject of philosophy, but be careful of fallacies along the way. Some may lure you into wrong beliefs, making you form an unreasonable argument.
A fallacy in which someone tries to win support for an argument or idea by exploiting his or her opponent's feelings of pity or guilt. In the given scene, appeal to pity occurred when the little boy was pleading his father not to continue his plan. The readers are told that unpleasant consequences will follow if they do not agree with the author. In the given scenario, the professor frightened his student that he is going to fail if he will not succeed in his defense that God's not dead. The person presenting the argument is attacked instead of the argument itself and its content.
Harold Ford looks nice. Isn't that enough? Terrorists need their privacy.
When I die, Harold Ford will let me pay taxes again.
Ford's right. I do have too many guns.
I met Harold at the Playboy party.
I'd love to pay higher marriage taxes.
Canada can take care of North Korea. They're not busy.
So we took money from porn movie producers. I mean, who hasn't?
So there are lots of biases that you can basically count on your perceiver being subject to. They're going to interfere with the way this person sees you. The first and probably most common is the confirmation bias. So confirmation bias is the brain's tendency to, once you start to kind of go get a sense of what someone is like, so in an initial interaction, you start to feel like this is a funny person, or this is a smart person, or this is someone I can trust. And once you start to have that initial hunch, your brain naturally looks for information that confirms that initial hunch and kind of ignores everything else. Psychologists also refer to this tendency to really latch on to early information about a person as the primacy effect. And basically what that means is the information we learn first about another person disproportionately shapes our understanding of them afterward. And so, in a way, I sometimes feel bad talking about that because I'd love to be the person that came and said, you know how everyone tells you that first impressions are so important? Don't worry about it. They're not that important. If anything, what the science shows is that they're really more important than you even think they are, because that first impression is those initial information that other person gets about you will have a really major effect on everything else they see. So for example, if in your initial encounter with someone you come across as kind of a jerk, and you realize afterwards that you didn't come across the way you intended to. And so the next day when you come in to work, let's say, you bring them a cup of coffee. And you think, well, that'll be nice. It's a nice gesture. It'll show them that I'm not a jerk. What's actually more likely to happen is that they're going to interpret you giving them coffee with the lens of the understanding of how you were a jerk before. So they'll say, oh, can you believe this jerk who's trying to manipulate me he thinks just giving me some coffee is going to somehow get me on his side, right? So they'll feel manipulated by the gesture. They'll interpret the gesture in a way that's consistent with what they already think of you. And that's really the challenge. Now, how do you get past confirmation bias? How do you get over the primacy effect when, let's say, your initial impression you gave someone wasn't that good? There are a couple ways to do it. You can kind of think of them as the tortoise and the hare ways of getting people to update their impressions. The tortoise way, because it takes a long time, is simply overwhelming them with an abundance of really eye-catching information that says, I'm not who you think I am, right? So it's not just bringing them a cup of coffee the next day, it's going out of your way to be nice day after day after day, potentially for a couple of months, before that person finally realizes there's so much evidence that you're a nice person that they say, you know what, what I thought of them originally, that's not true. They're actually a really nice person. But it takes a ton of information to do that, and you really have to hang in there for the long haul. The Hare method, which is actually not that fast, it's really more of a faster tortoise method, is to find a way for you to work with that person or have them need you in some way, because psychologists call this creating an outcome dependency. What it means is that person, in order for them to get what they want, they have to work with me. And what naturally happens when you create outcome dependency between people is that they become really interested in being accurate about that other person. right? Because if I need you to get what I want, then I'm going to have to really pay attention to who you are and be able to predict you. So people naturally take a second look. They don't just rely on that initial impression they had. They take another look at you, and they're more willing to update and revise their impression of you in order to be really accurate. This is why you find so often people will say, oh, you know, I thought so-and-so was not that bright, but then I worked with him and I found out that he was really smart. Well, yeah, working together creates a real motivation for you to be accurate about the other person, and that really opens up a door for you to make a good second impression if you've made a poor first one.
In the face of the modern world, we are in the midst of information overload, and philosophy has a vital role in our lives for us to determine the truth.
The search for the truth is an inevitable part of life, and as we venture forth on our long journey, we will encounter different beliefs and arguments that will contribute in building our sense of understanding of the different things around us.
It lies in us to distinguish the truth from what is not, by having understanding, knowledge, and clear awareness of fallacies and biases that may influence your own perception.
The world will continue to fill you ideas and information. Don't just accept this. Learn to filter just the necessary by philosophizing.
It is always a challenge to become a philosopher, to search for an explanation, and to unveil the truth about everything. But one thing's for sure, philosophy will be the bridge that will lead and help you find the truth.
No matter how cruel and screwed up things may get, no matter how confusion might always get in your way, let philosophy be the illuminating light of your path towards the truth.